Inside XSI there is the model structure, which is like a mini scene and can contain anything a scene does, but it's enabled to be imported, exported, it can propagate namespace, animation, that sort of thing. When I save the scene, I can save it internal to the scene, or with the scene, or I can save it external inside the database, and it will be a separate model, a .mdl file. I have on the mixer, I have a little clip with just some animation on here. Now sometimes I want to be able to do one of two things: pass this data through to another model. So I could import another model, something a bit more funky, and then open up the mixer, and then insert the source from the original sphere, and then off it goes. That's great. But now I have two models in my scene, and sometimes controlling the propagation between these can be a little difficult. So sometimes you want to be able to propagate animation, and sometimes you want to be able to propagate changes in resolution. So I want to work with a very low resolution object and then a higher resolution object which I want to swap out. Additionally, I would sometimes like to be able to make changes to my model outside the scene and have it update. If you wish to work as an animator on a low resolution piece of geometry and have a modeler making changes, that can be done. In fact, all of this can be done using reference models. If I switch to my sources and clips, here we can have animation, images, materials, audio, and in addition we can also have models. I can go in here and say now, okay, here is my low resolution, my high resolution is now the changed one, and here I have this model source. Now when I click on this, I can change the resolution of my model, just as I would change it from a low resolution piece of geometry to one which had much higher detail and perhaps ready for rendering. If we were to look at the scene root, this model contains some properties. First of all, it's the name of the reference model, together with the clip or the changes which can get propagated, as well as the original model source here. So there's each of the three separate components. In order for me to propagate the changes in animation, let's have a look at the options here. These are local modifications to save. That is, any changes I make whilst it is a reference model, those properties can be propagated to the different resolutions. Now I had the clip on the mixer. Now I can enable the propagation of the animation mixer from resolution to resolution. If I had original function curves on the model and I wanted to propagate that, I would not be allowed to, because I would have to have made the animation while it was a reference model. So what I'm going to do is open up the animation mixer, and it's given me a warning. It says the local modification to save, i.e. this parameter, doesn't include the mixer option. Would I like to be able to enable it? Well, yes, I would in this case. What I can do is show a couple of things. The first is the propagation of this as a clip. So if I were to turn on the animation mixer, when I propagate to my medium resolution, the animation has been propagated. New properties just refers to anything I could have put, like inside here. If I go back to the early frames, what I can do is now make some changes, perhaps make some rotation changes here. Just do a bit of keyframing. There we go. So here you can see that it's now logged that which I have changed, because I have things like function curves turned on. Those property values, parameter values, are now available to change to the resolution. So now when I switch to my low resolution, there we go, I have the rotation and I still have my animation. So I can pass this data back through multiple resolutions. In addition, working inside the Explorer here, you notice this is all locked. I can do animation, but I can't change the geometry. This has an advantage in that there's no way I can destroy the geometry data. What I can do is have someone like a modeler in another team be able to make those changes for me. If I switch over to another scene here, I have the original sphere. I've got some animation on here, which is the original clip where it was at the original frame. If I want to adjust things like the geometry and start making some changes, I can do that. I'll just do that for now. And now what I'm going to do is export that model, sphere only. And it says, do I want to replace the existing one? Well, yes, I do. Now I'm going to switch back to my model source, and I'm going to go in here and update the reference model. And there we go, the modeling structures has been changed, and yet all my animation has been preserved. So I can start to animate while somebody else starts the modeling, and at any time I can just have it updated. If I were to change the resolution, you notice it doesn't change it on this one because I overrode sphere only and not the other model, which was called sphere changed. And this one still has all the animation applied to it. At any stage, any of the resolutions, I can also just offload it. You notice here it just turns pink, and here it's just been offloaded. So all the data, not a problem, still there on the resolutions. Off it goes. The post load script is enabled to help make any additional changes that you wish inside the scene. If I were to go and load the script, go to my modeling and texturing, go into my scripts, I have a post load. Now there are a couple, which is the immediate post load, and the what I guess would be like the post load after modifications have been made. The script itself looks like this. I've done sub ref model post load and then given the model name. That's just the syntax for model source here. And then I want to do a message box just to show you exactly what happens. And then there's the post load after any modifications, and I've just then done another little message box. So now when I change my resolutions, like from my model source inside my scene root as well, sorry, there we go, I'll make this clean. So now when I do this, there we go, it tells me post load for model source as the first part of it, and then post load after the modification. So there are two times that you can make modifications, and I've just done them here as little subs. Or I could have just triggered a script which would have then been logged twice, but it could have been can be doing absolutely anything inside the scene. And finally, if you notice, I could have also had another level of resolution which can be used to work with slightly higher resolution to see how it's going, or you could even put it as something like another same identical object but with different animation as well. Especially useful for things like the original models, which have like clips of animation which you then perhaps want to change when you have a small army of them.